Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you a basic job that you might be asked to do as you are starting out in Microsoft Excel. So let's say you just start using Microsoft Excel and your boss um, he gives you a task. This might be a task that your boss might give you, or if you are the boss, if you are familiar with Excel and you want to do something, this might be a task you want to do. So I'm going to show you how to do this task, and I'll get to that in a second. But before we do, go to excelvbasequel.com, and you can watch almost 24 hours of free Excel lessons that teach you everything about Excel from the very basics to the advanced writing macros and things like that. And put your email in here, and you'll receive an email when there are new videos posted. Okay, so let's get started. So let's say your boss, or if you're the boss, then yourself, you're interested in Excel, and you need to, let's just say your boss. Your boss comes and says, list all the Excel functions in a worksheet, and that's what he says, and he gives you a website to go to, and it's this website. When you Google list all functions in Excel, this website comes up from Microsoft, this Excel functions by category. And when you go to this website, you see it is from Microsoft, and it lists all the Excel functions in Microsoft Excel. So you might be asking yourself, so what is a function? Functions are the reason Microsoft Excel is so powerful, because all you do with a function is it's like a machine. You give it some input and it throws out some output. They're very powerful things because you don't need to do any programming. Excel does it all for you. They're the backbone of Microsoft Excel. So you're going to pass in something, an input, which the inputs are called parameters. You pass in something like a number and it'll return an output that might be the number multiplied by something, or it could be anything. But all it is a machine. You pass in input and it gives you output. So there are hundreds of functions in Excel, and that's what this web page has on it. So this is for Microsoft Excel. You see it says applies to Microsoft Excel 2010. But then there's a disclaimer down here that says in Excel 2010, several functions have been implemented with new algorithms for accuracy. And you could read this blog about how they improved some functions down here. But the main point of the article, this article from Microsoft, is that it lists all the functions and it puts them into categories. So it has cube functions, database functions, date and time functions, engineering functions. So all these are different functions that go under certain categories, whether it's related to engineering or finance or things about logic, or lookup functions. So it lists all the functions that you'll ever use in Microsoft Excel. And as you scroll down, this web page is really big. It gives you the name of the category up here, and then it gives you the name of the function down here and the description of the function. So let's say your boss comes to you and says, I want 3 categories in an Excel spreadsheet. I want the name of the category, and then next to that I want the function that that category is in, or I want the function, all the functions in that category, and then I want the description of all those functions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this data and put it into Microsoft Excel. And let's start doing that. So to do that, we need to select this data here. And to do that, I'm holding down my mouse key and I'm just scrolling down my cursor. Alternatively, I could just press Control A. If I do Control A, then all the data on this web page is going to be highlighted, and I could just right click and I could do copy. So that's what I'm going to do. I do Control A, it highlights everything. Then I do copy, and now I go to Microsoft Excel and I open up, and I'm just going to do Control V, because we know from the beginner videos that Control C and Control V are they're the shortcut keys to copy and paste something. So I did Control C, now I'll do Control V. And notice my Microsoft Excel, you see that spinning blue circle that means that it's thinking. Well, not it's thinking, but it means that it's working. Um, and at the top there, you see it says not responding. So sometimes this could be a big problem, but in this case, it's just that there's a lot of data on that web page, so it's taking a long time to paste this data to the worksheet. So while it is is working on pasting this data into the worksheet, if you're not familiar with Microsoft, um, it's they make Microsoft Excel. So that's why I went to that web page, because all your answers about Excel, they're somewhere on those Microsoft web pages, and so you could find them. Sometimes they're hard to read or hard to understand, so that's where you want to go, is to Google stuff and look on Microsoft's um, web pages. Okay, so now we have the data that was on that web page in an Excel spreadsheet. But notice it has everything on that web page, starting from the very top, everything that was highlighted up here. So it took everything and it put it into Excel. So we don't need all this. So I'm just going to, okay, so now we get into the part of the video where you're going to do a lot of stuff in Excel as you would in a beginner role. And that's why this video is important. If you haven't used Excel a lot, this is a good video, because it's going to teach you about how to take data somewhere and then put it into a format that you want to do. A format not that you want to do, but that you want to have. So the first thing I need to do is to delete rows, and how to do that is to just highlight rows. So you just click on these rows and you could highlight them. So that's all I'm going to do, is just scroll down and highlight a bunch of rows that I don't need. And even this big row here, I'm going to highlight it. And I'm just going to right click and I'm going to go delete. And so I highlighted, I highlighted and deleted those rows. Now I want to delete some more until I get to this point here where it starts getting into the category and listing out the function and description. So I'm just going to delete these rows as well. I'm going to delete those. Okay, so now there's this picture here in the worksheet. So I want to delete that too. I just right click on it and go to cut. If I go to cut, it'll go to the clipboard as we saw before. But I could just clear the clipboard and now that picture is gone for good. And similarly, there's these things that are on the clipboard that I can cut. Let's see. I need to cut this. So there's all these things that are left over from bringing in data from the web page, and you could see that this, if I highlight this, there's this thing up here, which is what I'm trying to deal with now. And sometimes you got to be real careful with your mouse to hover over this stuff. Let me just insert a row here to see exactly what this thing is. Okay, so these things are pretty Okay, so this is something that you might encounter in when you're doing stuff in Excel. I pasted in all that data from the web page, and it brings in the pictures and it brings in all this other stuff like these two boxes here, which I can't seem to hover over and be able to here we go, cut. So what all I need to do is, let me take the text out of this. So I'm gonna take the text out of this by clicking on this cell A2, and I'm gonna highlight all this text and do Control X, and then I'm going to put that text up here and then paste, Control V. So I just moved all that text so that I can just go here and delete this row. I highlight the row and delete. Oh, those boxes are still there. What a pain. Let's see. I thought by deleting the row it would delete those boxes, but it didn't. And what are these things? Okay, so now we run into another issue. So how do we get around this? Well, if I copy this, I do Control C. Can I move this here? Yes, I can. And now I see these things, right? So I could see their icons here. I could cut those out by doing highlighting it and going cut. I could go to the clipboard and clear them. So now I have, what I want on my worksheet is data. I don't want these two boxes. So I'm running into problems here. And this is totally a real world example because you might run into the same problem. So how do you get rid of the boxes? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to hover over them. I could probably Google this and try to figure this out, but it's really not worth it because all you need to do is copy all this data to a new worksheet. So I'm going to do that. And one thing I notice is that these cells here are hyperlinks, and those could be very painful in a worksheet. So I don't want the hyperlink in that cell. So what I want to do is copy and only paste the values of this data. So to do that, I do copy. I just highlight the column of column A, because column A has all. Well, first of all, let me expand this column here. So I don't want this all to be bunched up. So I'm just going to double click this here, and that's going to move that over. And then I'm going to make the width of every column by clicking on the upper left corner. I'm going to make the width something that is more reasonable. And then I'm going to double click this right here. After I highlight this column, I'm going to double click this, and now I get the description that goes out left to right, and also I'll double click this. And okay, so now I have my function name here and my function description here, and I still have these boxes, but I'll get to that in a second. But now all I need to do is copy all this data going down, because I won't have those boxes there. So that's what I'll do. I don't need to worry about these boxes, about how to delete them. They're a pain. So all I need to do is copy all this data. So what I'm going to do is highlight this row and then scroll down about 400 and however many rows. And now all these rows are highlighted from the very top. I started at row 2. Let me scroll back up. Or row 3. I started at row 3 and I just scrolled down and highlighted all the rows. Now I could just do Control C and go to sheet 2, and I could paste in, I do Control V here, and now I could do the same thing, just double click this, and now on sheet 2 I have something that looks better, right? I don't have these boxes here. But I also, okay, so at this point I could delete sheet 1. So I'm going to delete it. So how do I do that? Well, you just go to the sheet 1 and you right click and you go delete. And it says data may exist in the sheet selected for deletion. And then that's okay, so I'm going to press delete. So now I got around that problem of those two boxes that I couldn't delete. So this is a real world example. You don't need to some people might spend 30 minutes on trying to figure out what if those boxes are and how to get rid of them. Well, I couldn't put my mouse over and cut them out. So I moved what I wanted to a sheet that I wanted. And now I can start building the data that I want. So in this column A, I'm going to name it function name. And in column B, I'm going to name it just description. And that's how I do that. So these will be my headers for my columns. And let me also insert a column, because I at the beginning I said I wanted 3 columns, one for the category. So I'm going to insert a column here, and I'm going to title this column category. Now the first category that we saw was this. Let's see. The first category, which I deleted, is this add-in and automation function. So I'm just going to bring this back by copying this. Control C on the web page. You can just go straight to Microsoft Excel, and I'm going to do Control V right here. And again, it takes some time because, at least on my computer, because it is a web page for some reason, all computers are different, so things like this might not happen on your computer, where if you copy from a web page and then paste it in Control C, Control V, it might not be like that. You might do it in a second. Okay, so now I'm getting somewhere, because okay, here's my first category, add-in and automation functions, and here's all the functions in this category. So what I want to do, what's going to be the format of this worksheet? Well, I'm going to have 3 columns, one called category, one called function name, one called description. And what I want to do is, next to each function, have the category it's in. So I can just drag this category down. Now to do that, remember, you click on the cell. Over in the bottom right, there's that little square. You could just select that. You could just click on that square, drag your cursor down, and now I get add-in and automation functions is the category for all these functions: call, euro convert, get pivot data, register ID, and then here's a description of all those functions. So now my data is coming together. It still looks very bad, so let's make it look better. Let's highlight the entire worksheet by clicking on the upper left corner here, and let's take bold off. And let's make the size 12, and let's make this, yeah, we could leave it as Calibri, or however you pronounce that. But notice I'm on the font tab. I'm on the font area tab. That's where I did all that. I just went up here and I clicked the bold button to turn bold on, and then turn it off again because some of them were already bold. And then I set the size of all the text on the worksheet, and here I set the font style. Once I do that, next thing I want to do is highlight this row because it has the headers in it. I'm going to make this bold, so I'm going to click on bold. Another thing I want to do is take off these hyperlinks, because I told you when you click on something, it's going to take you outside of the worksheet. I don't want to do that. I just want to highlight the whole column. And this is how you would take off a hyperlink. You highlight the whole column or an individual cell, but when you click on that cell, it's going to take you to a web page because this is the hyperlink. You could see that if you right click and you go to edit hyperlink, this is the hyperlink that it would take you to. Okay, so we don't want to deal with hyperlinks on our worksheet. We just want the value, like the name of the function. So to do that, highlight the whole column, right click and go to copy, and then you can right click again and go paste special, and right here you just do values, and now you don't have a hyperlink anymore. You still have the format of an underlined thing, but notice if I let me press escape to get rid of the dancing border. If I right click now and I go to edit hyperlink, oops. Oh, the hyperlink is still there. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to copy paste. I wanted to do this, remove hyperlinks. So let me click that. Highlight the whole column and click remove hyperlinks. And now I just did that. So now the hyperlinks are gone. Sorry. I thought I should have copied and pasted. Okay, so Next thing I need to do is I want to make all the font on this web page black. So I'm going to highlight the cells again, go over here to the font and put black. Next thing I want to do is to get rid of these this shading here and this shading here. So I'm just going to click the upper left again, go up here to this fill on the font area of the home tab, go to no fill. And that removes all fill. And then go to borders here and go to no border. So that will take off these lines down here. So if I click on no border, it'll take off the border. So now I have, things are starting to look much better, right? So now all I have to do is go down this worksheet and take this, take the category and move it over here and drag it down and then delete these rows. Because remember what we want. We only want on our worksheet 3 columns and all the functions in Microsoft Excel. That's what we want. So let's start doing that. So we're going to delete these rows here. Well, actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag cube functions because it's the category of the upcoming functions. I'm going to drag it here, and then I can delete these rows because there's nothing significant in there. And I'm going to delete those rows. And now I'm going to drag this down again up to here. So under cube functions, the cube function category has these functions here. And one thing that would be good here is to sort of, because we're going to have a lot of different categories. One thing that would be good would be to highlight this data for every category in a different color. So to do that, I'm going to click on this cell here and drag my cursor over the entire add-in and automation function category. Then I'm going to go up here and click on this light blue, and I'm just going to color that category. Okay. Now again, I'm going to highlight this cube functions category, and I'm going to highlight it a different color. So you see what we're starting to do here. We're listing all the functions in Microsoft Excel by category, and then we're adding a color to that category. Now the color is arbitrary, but I just want to show you how to do that, and that's the purpose of this video, is to just give you, what is a real world example that someone might give to you or you might have to do. And this is certainly one, is that, okay, there's data somewhere, go get it, put it into a worksheet and make it look presentable. And that's what we're doing. Another thing you might want to do here to make it look good is to center these things. Center all this data. So to do that, again, right click or left click the upper left corner, go to alignment and just click this center here. But notice for the description, since they're so big, I really don't want to center that. I want that right left aligned. So I'm going to go up here and highlight the column where the description is in, and then I'm going to left align it. And now I get something that looks pretty good. I got a category here, all the functions in that category, and the description of those functions. Now we're just going to move down the worksheet doing that same thing. So here I take database functions, and I'm just going to drag this down. Then I'm going to go back up and delete those rows that were in between that I don't care about. And now I can highlight this a different color. Again, colors don't matter. I could reuse the colors because I just want to separate things from one category to the next. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I take date and time, I drag it. Notice I'm dragging this, right? So to the drag, remember, you select the cell and you cover the border, and then you get that crosshairs and you drag it wherever you want. And now I'm going to drag that down. And again, I'm going to go up and delete these rows. Then I can highlight these functions. And if you're curious, is this time consuming? And yes, it is. It is time consuming. I'm gonna complete the video. I mean, I want to show you what it looks like at the end and talk about how many functions there are. So I'm gonna keep going with this. But if you're wondering, this seems like a crazy thing to do. It's very time consuming to drag and and delete the rows and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, you're right. I mean, it is. But this isn't the end of Microsoft Excel. It really is only the beginning because um, I mentioned in the beginning that there are things called macros, which, if you don't know what they are, basically they could automate what I'm doing now. If you think this is time consuming, and so do I, you could potentially write a macro to do something exactly what I'm doing, deleting the rows and formatting the worksheet just like this. And it's not very hard to learn how to write macros. In fact, it's easy. We have tons and tons of videos on excelvbasequal.com that will teach you how to do that. So if you see this video and you start thinking, oh my God, Microsoft, to do a simple task like list all the functions in Excel, it requires so much repetition. There's actually ways around it. There's things called macros, which, if you're interested, and I encourage you to be interested, because if you're going to be working with Excel, you want to know how to write things so you don't have to do stuff like this. But for this video, it's perfect because it's an introduction to um, doing this same sort of manipulating the worksheet data in a way that you want. And we're still moving along here. But notice how many functions we have so far. We have 161 functions, and that's a lot of functions. But notice what I'm doing. If you're watching the video, which I hope you are, I'm only doing I'm doing the same thing over and over. I'm dragging and I'm highlighting ranges. Remember what a range is? Um, let's. It looks like there's some JavaScript in this column here. So let me copy paste special values. Well, actually, I don't want to do that because I just highlighted all. If I were to copy paste special values, let's see. Let's try it on one thing here. No, there's no JavaScript. Okay. I'm just going to keep going. But notice what I'm doing. I'm just doing the same thing over and over. I'm dragging this down here. Then I'm highlighting the rows that I don't need and I'm deleting them. Right click, delete. Then I'm going to drag the category down all the way down till the next thing begins. Then I highlight that all the way back up. I highlight that. And then I move on to the next category. And I do the same thing. We're almost done, so if you're wondering when it will end, it's almost done. But this is a great exercise if you're new to Microsoft Excel. If you haven't done anything in Excel, to do something like this, it gets you really familiar with the bulk of the functionality in terms of copying data, deleting rows, and using this font and alignment tab up here. And let's see. Yes, we are almost done. So I think this is the last one. Okay, so drag this down. And all this, all of these rows down here, I don't need them again. I could cut that. To get rid of these icons, I'm cutting them, and then I'm going to the clear. You don't have to go to the clipboard and clear it. You could just leave them on the clipboard, and they'll go away when you close Excel. Okay, so we're done. What we did in this video, we listed out um, every single function in Microsoft Excel. And remember what a function is. It's just a machine that does something. Let me briefly show you what a function is. So there's a function. If you go to the mathematical, let's go down here into, there's a function called sum here. Okay, and it's in the math and trigonometry functions category. And what does it do? Well, here's a description. It adds its arguments. Now, if you don't know what an argument is, it's basically what I referred to before as input. So let's see what this sum does and how you access sum. Let's say you have a number in cell B2 and B3. A function is a machine, like I said, right? and you use a function by using its name, and you do the equal signs. You do equals sum, and now here's the arguments, or you could call them parameters. I call them parameters, they call them arguments, but all they are is something you pass in as input. And you could see it gives you an example of what you should pass in, number 1 comma number 2. So we could do that. We could go here and we could go number 1 comma number 2, and then you close parentheses and you press enter, and that's a function. It has a name and it takes arguments or parameters. Although some functions don't take names and functions. One of those, an easy one, is today. This is a function that if you type today equals today and then open close parentheses, you get the current day. Okay, so that's all functions are. They're just machines. Here I pass in two things, 2 bits of input, and it returns something here. It returns the addition of those 2 terms. Here I don't pass in anything. I just call this function by doing equals in the name of the function with open close parentheses, and it returns a date. So a function is just a machine. You pass in input and it gives you output. Sometimes you don't need to do input. It'll just, if you call the function, it'll just give you the output. So that's all a function is. Okay, so we saw one function down here, this math and trigonometry function sum. Oh, by the way, let's say you had 100 numbers here. Would you have to put all commas in here? And the answer is no. You would use a colon like this, and notice it changes from 2 distinct cells to a range here. So now we have a range, so you're adding a range. So look at, if you do a comma, it adds a blue highlighted cell and a green highlighted cell, whereas if you put a colon, it adds the whole range of cells. So you could have 1,000 cells, 10,000 cells, it doesn't matter. Also, you could put a number over here and a number over here, and you could do the same thing. You could start your range from, let's say, A1, and you could hit hit enter, and now notice my range is that whole blue rectangle here. So that's all a function is. These are the backbone of Excel. They're super powerful. You need to know them because you're going to use them all the time. Think of how time consuming it would have been to write A1 comma A2 comma B1 comma B2. That would be very time consuming, and if you had 1,000 numbers, it would take you forever to do that. That's why functions are so powerful. You just pass in something and it returns a value. So there we have the sum function. So again, what is a function? It's a machine. You could think of it as a machine that does something. Where you pass in input. The input is called an argument or a parameter, and it spits out output. So that's all a machine is. Now notice how many functions, or you could think of them as how many machines are there in Microsoft Excel. If I keep scrolling down, there's 348 functions in Microsoft Excel. Now, like I said before, these are very powerful things. So you can think of them as 348 machines that can do something. They do all kinds of things. Very powerful things that people use to do sophisticated modeling. But it doesn't have to be sophisticated. It could do simple things too. But the point is, it has the capability with all these functions to do a lot of things, and that's why Excel is so powerful, because of this right here. I mean, what you're seeing in this video is the most important part of learning Microsoft Excel. There's 348 functions. Now, when they come out with the next version, there might be 400, but right now there's 348. So the question is now, I think you're wondering, do you need to know every single function? And the answer is absolutely not. I am going to get into videos about functions down the road. Probably you won't use 85 or 90% of these functions. You're only going to use 10%, maybe 15% of the functions on a daily basis. Now, let me preface that by saying for the majority of Excel users. So don't freak out. You don't need to know any of the descriptions. You don't need to know the names. You don't need to remember any of the stuff. I'm going to put up a video. Now, here's the cool thing is that you see now with this task, your boss asks you to list every single function in Excel and put the category, the function name, and the description. Okay, so you're done with that task. You've done that. You've made it look cool with the coloring, with the titles. You bolded those, and it looks real cool. And you took the time to drag and drag down the categories. So you know what you're doing in Excel now in terms of adding color and moving things around and copy and pasting and all that stuff. So now the real good part comes in, is because what we're going to do, what I'm going to do is put up a video for, I'm not going to say all of these functions, but for a great number of these functions, so that you will become familiar with exactly what these functions do. And I'm going to put up the ones that are most widely used to begin with, and then move on from there. So this is a great file to have, and actually this website here is probably where you want to go, because here it gives you a ton of information about every function. So if you're the curious type, go here. You could click on a function, and it will actually show you. It will actually be some paragraphs and some text about what the function does. But it's much easier to watch a video from someone who has from experts who have used Excel, and it will show you how to use all the functions. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to show you what a simple task would be like as you're starting out in Excel, whether you're the boss or whether you're the employee. This is something that you might need, something similar you might need to do. So I think it shows you a lot about how to get things in order on the worksheet. Again, this is a great reference, either this worksheet or this website here, the Microsoft website. And I'll scroll up. If you just go to office.microsoft.com, you'll find it, and search Excel help, and then I don't think you want that. I think you want this one. It's going back to the right page now. Yeah, you want this one. Excel help dash Excel function by category. Or you have this worksheet here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As a beginner, this would be a great test you would need to know. Again, the real fun part and what's going to make you an expert at Excel and what's going to make you excel in your career and to get better jobs is to be very familiar with a lot of these functions. So what we're going to do is if you go to excelvbasequel.com, you're going to see tons of videos on all these functions and actually using real live data, dummy data. So we're going to have fake data and we're going to actually use these functions in a way that you would in the real world. So go to the website excelvbasequel.com, watch the videos. You could become an expert at Excel and even at you could become an expert in terms of writing macros to automate things. So go here and put your email in and be signed up when the new videos go up. Until the next video, I will talk to you soon. Bye.